Hey guys, Matthew here once again with the next build of the PoE2 thing, and it's turned out to be a pretty damn fun one. This is kind of a build type or archetype I think that has existed in the past, but I'm giving it a shot as something else, I suppose. For the first time as well, I have not played Bleed in PoE2 whatsoever thus far, and this is Bleed with Spears, and in particular using Rake and also Blood Hunt. Comboing the two. So as you can see, basically what happens is you bleed the enemy. You can see that it's got kind of a bleed bar, and then you can capitalize on that bleed with Blood Hunt, which just like lunges you at the target and consumes whatever damage you've done to the boss previously to do that damage again. So it kind of like doubles up and feels pretty freaking good. The overall playstyle of this character, or the sort of vibe of it, is actually a really fun one, thanks to the spears, the way they've like designed the skills and all that. And it's been pretty damn fun to go through, thanks to just, yeah, the interaction, the mechanics of it. It's pretty cool as a design concept. So Rake is what's doing kind of my single target, but it doesn't really have to. You can do just about anything for, additional bleed and stuff. Part of what I've got is also Spearfield, which has a whole bunch of bleed damage. And then, Blood Hunt, which just does this cool lunge explosion thing. So it's quite a lot of fun because of that. So the concept here is a Titan that has buffed small passive nodes for the 50% extra effect on those, as well as 50% more damage against stunned enemies, which does come into play quite often, especially against bosses like roughly halfway through their life bar. They typically get stunned, but also utilizing the cheese new technology of the surround hat. So I found one of these on previous character, I think, and essentially what's happening is there's a hat in the game that counts less enemies around you required for you to be surrounded. So there's passives on the tree at the bottom of the tree that do extra things when you're surrounded by enemies. Surrounded means 5 or more enemies. And with the hat, you can essentially just count yourself as always surrounded, which gives you increased damage, bit of extra speed, bit of extra armor, all that sort of stuff. So combining that, we have ourselves a pretty nice character because those passives are quite strong, and I'll show you that when I'm going over the character. That said, though, you don't have to do it. It's not build enabling by any means, so you can get something like this off the ground well and truly without the hat, and it's really not even that amazing in my current build. So yeah, don't be afraid that you can't get the hat. You can't play something like this. On top of that, from what I've heard, this type of playstyle goes really well with Ritualist because Herald of Blood is basically what's making this shit so cool and so fun to clear with. And Herald of Blood with Ritualist is apparently pretty damn cool because of its Blood Boil ability. You can kind of like do these prolift chains and shit, and apparently that's really nice. So for my character so far, it's got nothing to do with that. It's felt really nice to clear. It's felt very consistent, reliable, and quite fun to map with. But I can imagine how it could be even cooler. So as you can see, Herald of Blood puts in a lot of work just for the aesthetics of the build. You're like bleeding things, they pop, and I'm not sure I would really care about bleed builds or play this for any amount of time if it wasn't for Herald of Blood, because explosions feel pretty damn good. Overall, it is a nice playstyle though. You can be very thick, very survivable if you want to. I haven't built very much into the thickness, just some armor and some of the armor is Ellie stuff, and I feel pretty damn thick. You could realistically get capped block. You can also do a hybrid defense on this type of character with armor and evasion. You could get much more life if you really wanted to. At the end of the day, I'd say it's a pretty flexible character for what you can do with it. As far as building to its strengths, various strengths, you kind of decide what you want to do for offense or defense, and you can even not necessarily use Rake in the build because it's a bit weird for its damage calculations for the distance you travel. It could be an entirely Spearfield character. It can even be a dual weapon character. You can like just have a separate offhand for whatever you want. Could be crossbows, could be maces, could be bows, and just build into some generic bleeds type of content. bleed type of style for just about any other thing that hits hard and can be based around physical. I chose to go pure spears because the spears seem to be cool enough and work well enough by themselves, so I didn't decide to do a hammer of the gods in the offhand or, a snipe bow skill, anything like that. So yeah, just keeping it pretty vanilla. And as you can see, it gets pretty juicy. Like I said, Herald of Blood is going to be the main reason you want to play this thing. And just a funny kind of clip where I was not the victor for a change on this character. It was kind of funny. So with that, let me go ahead and show you how I built the character up to this point, so you can hopefully give it a shot and do something similar. So here we are with the character. He is level 87, surrounded by Dentigit. So, my stream surrounded by, because the main focal point currently kind of the character is constricting command. So as I mentioned, it is about being surrounded. The hat itself has rolls from 2 to 5. You essentially need a hat that has 5 fewer, which is why it's going to be a bit more expensive when you look these up, to be always surrounded, because you are surrounded if there are at least 5 enemies around you. If you require 5 fewer, that means you're always surrounded. They're always in your walls and, living rent-free. And the whole point is for these nodes and these nodes. There's also a couple of other things too, but the idea is that you are then speccing things like this: increased damage while surrounded. And since I'm a Titan that gets 50% increased effect of small passives, these are all slightly more powerful. So they're supposed to be like 25% damage nodes, but then it's also got this 100 damage node, which is pretty big. And then some big defensive ones. So there's a good dodge roll thing here. There's a few defensive ones here. So like I said, it can be done as kind of like a hybrid build as armor evasion, because you are getting a lot of armor evasion speccing these. I ended up just going pure armor because the way I was building the evasion wasn't going to do enough. But you can get quite a bit thicker through this as well. And then attack speed over here. Lastly, you can get a little bit of, regen, which I had, but unspec'd because fuck it. And then there's a couple of damage nodes here as well, 30 and 25. And then lastly, we are using this 75 increased melee damage with spears. And that's thanks to this guy over here, Dance with Death. From nothing, costs like, 20 exalts when I bought it. Just means that I save a few points on things like attack speed, because that does not benefit our bleed damage. And then the weaker damage nodes, these 15 damage with spears. And then just pick up movement speed, whatever the fuck there. So basically that's the whole point of the hat, but also there is a quite nice thing happening here with the Defy 2 support. Attack damage with hits with supported skills is lucky while you are surrounded. That means that it's going to roll your damage twice, pick the nicer damage roll, and insufficient mana doesn't prevent the use of supported skills. So with Rake and with my Spearfield, I'm using Defy on both of them. Those are my main 2 abilities that I'm running around spamming. And as you can see, you will kind of go just after a few of these things, but then you can just keep using your mana and it does not matter. So with that and that, I have both of those attached. It means that I don't care about mana. And the rest of my skills, I've just attached Life Tap to, so that, mana really doesn't mean anything to me. And it does become pretty comfortable because of that. That said, it's not a big deal, because prior to even using those supports, I just had a little bit of mana leech on a ring, and that solved my mana as well. Solving mana is not hard. It's just a nice little perk. But we do get that lucky damage, which theoretically should help. It's not a huge deal, but it does help a lot if you want to also go Raslatha's Coil Belt for more max fizz and less, min fizz, which means that your damage gets pretty large on the damage range, so 3k to 16k. You're rolling that luckily, so that ideally you're hitting towards that higher end. If you're not going to wear Raslatha's, you can easily do that, and you don't have to do the lucky damage stuff and the hat stuff. You can instead do a Darkness Enthroned, which will have these things in there. What are they? Wolf Talismans for extra magnitude of bleed. And then that just means that, you have better bleeds and more reliable sort of hits. But the Lucky Tech is kind of too good to go past for this type of a, kind of the way we've built. So yeah, the tree I think is kind of stupid at the moment and probably needs refining. I just went through like some pretty inefficient melee damage nodes. Chances are this is wrong and this entire pathing is wrong, but this is what I've got so far. Went all the way around. We've picked up a whole bunch of damage nodes. So ailments in this game compared to PoE1 are a little bit different. Basically, it's all about your initial hit and then how you're scaling the ailments afterwards. So yes, you do care about just regular damage, how hard you initially hit. So yeah, all of this sort of shit works for that. And then on top of that, magnitude of ailments, magnitude of bleed does go a long way as well. So we're picking up all of that. Probably going to get rid of Iron Reflexes. It doesn't do much for me at the moment. I do have two different weapon set passives at the moment. They're not big. It's not a big deal because one is just for culling, so that my offhand cull when I'm using Blood Hunt is just a little bit stronger. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then otherwise, yeah, we're just pathing all the way here. And I path all the way over to the companion damage nodes so that increases and reductions to companion damage also apply to you. I mostly did that because we are buffing the small passives here, which get pretty damn strong thanks to Titan. So when I'm summoning my companion, I'm just getting a whole bunch of extra damage. And on top of that, the companion that I've chosen is this guy who does a haste aura and all damage shocks. It's the ant that you get from Act 5, whatever, interludes. And it is pretty damn useful just because he's like fast and easy to get. So you get him in, let's see, if you want to target farm him, he's in the interlude of Act 3, I think it is, and you go to Ashen Forest, find the ant, and then just like, see if he's a good one. If he's not, you just respawn at checkpoint and try again. The big problem with him though is he constantly shits out this effect and I fucking hate it, and I'm going to be getting rid of him because it's way too annoying. So keep that in mind. If you don't play with sound, that's fine, not a big deal, but I play with sound. I like sound in this game, and that means I have to constantly turn him off when I'm in town and stuff. The main benefit is he's kind of fast by default, so he should keep up with you. But yeah, he's just not worth it. I'm going to get rid of him because of that. I'm still going to find myself a companion that has something like a haste aura and maybe damage shocks. That'd be kind of cool. Bear in mind, if you want to make them unkillable with the new support gem that makes them take no damage, it'll also make them deal no damage, so they won't be able to shock. I currently have just solved it with like meat shield, res, and made him a high enough level so that he still does some shocking, and I also give him some of my own leech over here. So that's currently what's happening there with the companion. You don't have to do that. I don't think he's super impactful, but it is kind of nice for those extra little damage nodes. Aside from that, we are looking at just spears. So this is a spear I used from level 65 till about, what am I now? 87 till about 86, I'd say. So for most of the kind of endgame experience, most of your damage is going to come from just having flat fizz on a spear. So keep upgrading your weapon as you can. You can, either just buy little weapons from people for very cheap as you're leveling, or make your own with like some essences and stuff. This one I made just by buying a flaring base and then using, the essence for let's see. Actually, I think this one fucked up. I used an attack speed essence and then managed to slam the hybrid fizz and then put on the veiled fizz and then tried to roll off the attack, roll off anything else and keep the attack speed for the attack skills, and that fucked up. And instead we have the onslaught. But you can make pretty reliable weapons if you just start out with a nice enough base. So likewise with this guy over here, I started out with a physical base. I fractured it afterwards, doesn't matter. I started out with just that percent fizz 138 base with the attack speed, bought that for 2 divines, I think it was, and then used a fizz essence, so one of these guys. And then you've got 3 good rolls. I went ahead and did a prefix veil and got the hybrid there. I then filled up the suffixes and then used a battle essence, which gives you kind of like a 1 in 3, 2 in 3 chance, if you don't want to take off the attack speed, of course, 2 in 3 chance of getting the +4. So in the end, we made something like a 7 to 10 divine spear, but it cost me something like 3 to 4 divines to make. But otherwise, there is just a plethora of spears like this out there for, 3 to 10 divines, about 600 PDPS. It doesn't really matter, like all of this stuff feels pretty damn good regardless. I didn't feel like much of an upgrade from this one to that one, and this one is absolutely worthless, but it's what I made and was just playing with for most of the character. So it's just kind of a strong combo, I think, by itself, doing the spears and bleed and rake and stuff. We've got flat fears and just some res and life and stuff on a ring. We've got plus melee skills. That's going to take you a good, decent far away for damage scaling. Likewise there, plus melee skills. Grab a blue amulet and then finish the craft as we've done in previous characters. Got some fizz leech there. You need some fizz leech somewhere, so either your ring, your gloves, your weapon, and mana leech if you don't want to do the mana solve in the other way. Otherwise, yep, armor is Ellie over there, armor is Ellie over here, and just some armor so that we are a bit thicker. I didn't actually get armor on this character until pretty recently. I was basically playing with my leveling chest the entire time, and I can recommend it. This thing is very nice because you have to aggravate your bleeding somehow. Aggravate means they count as moving at all times, whereas this chest just means that it's always aggravated. So I use this thing for like 80 levels, but when you're ready, you can do some other stuff, spec into the aggravate thing. But the way I'm doing it right now is having my weapon swap, have this spear, and it is on my default attack. So that will aggravate the bleed, and honestly, you can see it throughout some of the clips, but I use it pretty damn rarely. With the damage I've got right now, the bleed doesn't need to be aggravated very often, but when you do, you bleed things, you stab, they're aggravated, you bounce back, and then use Blood Hunt to kind of finish them off. That's kind of how it's working. That's the current setup, and yeah, that's if you want to do a similar thing with the weapon swap and all that, then that's the setup. So the actual links, I do recommend going with a 5 or a 6 link setup for Rake during leveling. It's pretty comfy, but what we've got is my default attack on my main spear has some armor break, so Uruk's armor break, rapid attacks, that's on my middle, and that actually hits really fucking hard by itself as well. When I'm like buffed up, it can hit like 200,000 or 300,000 tooltip DPS. You could even link this thing up to actually be your main bleed source if you want, because it hits pretty damn hard. But that's currently what I've got. Armor break, not super important, but it does help out. We then have spear stab on the offhand for just applying aggravate. That's got rapid attacks. Rake itself is currently using magnified area, deep cuts, ancestral call, so you'll see that the skill is sometimes ancestrally boosted and releases a couple extra of your own clones to like rake other things. Feels really good with the rake, so I can recommend that one. We currently have rage over here as well, and then Defiant 2. Herald of Blood, I don't know what's really good to link with this thing, but for most of the campaign, I just had Magnified Area and Brutality. I've recently attached Bleed 4 and Close Combat as well. The minion itself just has, Meat Shield, Elemental Army, and Minion Mastery. He's pretty new to my setup as well. Haven't really used a minion for too long. Blood Hunt currently has Rapid Attacks, Impale, which I don't think does anything, fuck it. Culling Strike, and then Life Tap. Spearfield I'm using as quite a decent amount of my other clear as well. Feels pretty good for larger AoE. And it currently has Deep Cuts, Defy 2, Bleed 3, so it's actually doing Bleed, and Brutality. And I'll probably attach, I don't know, something else as a 6 link soon. Bloodhound Mark is kind of just an explosion that happens when you mark the enemy and then get him to a certain amount of life. It doesn't seem that necessary. If you really don't want to play with it, you don't have to, but I think it does a little bit of extra. It has Life Tap, Brutality, Conk Effect, and Bleed 4, which once again, just more damage. This is just so I can find a new beast. And then Wind Dancer is actually a fun piece of tech for this type of a playstyle. We don't have any evasion, so that's not what it's there for, but it does do a big damage hit when you get hit and you have stacks as an AoE around you. And when that happens, you bleed everything around you, and then they explode as well. It's actually really quite comfy, kind of a Thorn style playstyle, because this actually hits pretty hard. So we've got Bleed 3, Deep Cuts, Brutality, and Heavy Swing, and it can kill res, it can damn near kill bosses and stuff all by itself just when things hit you and you do an AoE. So it's a good clear assist, it's a good, extra bunch of damage that you otherwise wouldn't have. So it's pretty damn nice, and since we don't have evasion, it's proccing pretty much all the time. So I can recommend doing that one as well. Just make sure you keep your dexterity up to make it work. 275 attack damage, and it's proccing quite frequently. Otherwise, yeah, that's the passive tree. That's what I've got. My first 4 points went towards that. And then the other points are kind of up in the air. You don't have to do this heavy stun thing. It doesn't come in clutch very often at all. You could instead just become thicker with bigger life and bigger armor. If that's what you want to do, by all means, you can do that. But I just went for the theoretical more damage. But yeah, passive tree could be anything, I think. I don't think you have to do the surrounded attack. You can instead just have a thicker like helm with armor and life and stuff, and there's more damage you can still spec in the tree. So you save something like 18 points, I think, by not specking all of that stuff. You can instead, spec the extra spear nodes. You can go up here and spec the companion stuff, 1, 2, 3, which I might still do on this character, 1, 2, 3, and then all these extra damage nodes too. These extra bleed nodes here, magnitude of ailments, so there's a bit more damage there. And in theory, you can get much more damage if you actually go crit on this character, but it'll be more expensive because you will then need a crit spear, you'll need crit damage wherever else you can get it. I tried to go the non-crit route because it's much more reliable, comfortable, and cheaper, and see if it's got the damage behind it. It does, so no need to go crit. We're chilling. So that's basically the character. I don't think we need to say anything else. Works early from leveling, and a really fun playstyle. You'll thoroughly enjoy... what do we got? You'll thoroughly enjoy Herald of Blood, and you'll thoroughly enjoy Blood Hunt, just like backing up, winding up, and then delivering this huge fun killing blow from Blood Hunt. It was a real hoot to like level and do the campaign. So that's currently the character. With that, there it is. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.